All right, what is going on, Laker fans, NBA fans? Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. I got Lakers talk coming up tonight, so I figured I'll do just a little sneak preview. My show will start at 7 o'clock. Will be a full hour. Dwayne Rankin, who covers the Phoenix Suns, he's going to come on. We'll talk a little bit about the Beal deal. If the Suns are the team to beat in the West, his thoughts on Chris Paul, if he'd be a good fit for the Lakers. So we'll get into all that, especially with his association with the Phoenix Suns. But I want to do just a few minutes. A lot of NBA stuff already going on. I mean, think about this. The draft is coming up this Thursday. Free agency doesn't start until July 1st. And here we are, already have things kind of moving and shaking around the NBA. So got a couple NBA stories I want to get into. Number one, the latest on Chris Paul and the chances of him becoming a Los Angeles Laker. We'll do that. I did my show earlier today. Ramona Shelburne, I thought, had some really good points about the CP3 situation that I agree with. Draymond Green opting out. What does that mean? Is Draymond Green is he most likely not going to be a Golden State Warrior? Or is he going to stay there and they'll continue to build? That obviously is key around the Lakers, what a team like the Golden State Warriors does, specifically with Draymond Green. And then, like I just mentioned, are the Phoenix Suns the team to beat in the Western Conference? Did a show earlier today, and everyone was all over the place on their opinion in regards to Bradley Beal. So I'm going to get into all that stuff. So appreciate you guys being a part of the show. If you've been a part of the show before, thank you for coming back. If this is your first time, I predominantly do a lot of Laker topics, but I also just love the NBA, and I'm going to do as many videos that I think you guys would be interested in that's not just Laker related, but also just NBA news that is associated or you could tie back to the Lakers. So welcome to the channel if you've never been. If you could please subscribe to the channel, I greatly appreciate that. I'm going to stop pointing at you guys. Why do I keep pointing at you guys? All right, no more pointing. No more pointing. Let's start with the first one. I do want to do this real quick. So we know what happened. The deal that brought Bradley Beal to the Phoenix Suns means Chris Paul got shipped out to the Washington Wizards. And the reason why this is not official yet is simply because they're trying to find a third team that they can get involved and trade for. So earlier today, I was doing my show and we're having a conversation, and John Ireland, who's the voice of the Lakers, Ramona Shelburne, who covers the NBA for the Lakers as good as it gets. We're having the conversation. Travis Rogers is there as well. And John was basically saying, hey, would you trade for Chris Paul? Would you be the third team involved? And let's say you had to give up Mo Bamba. And let's say you had to give up Malik Beasley. And let's say you had to give up the number 17 pick. Would you go trade for Chris Paul? And I kind of stopped. I paused for a second. And I'm like, why are we kind of in my head? I'm like, I never signed up to want Chris Paul for the money that he's owed, the $30 million or something like that. My thought process was always, if you can get him and you're not really giving up anything for him, and he just got waived and decides that he wants to come and sign for the minimum to play for the Lakers, a veteran's minimum, then okay, I don't think there's much harm or foul in that. But if you start getting into the process of you got to trade, I think one of the conversations out there is the Lakers and the Clippers are kind of the two in the lead to potentially try to go get Chris Paul. But if this is a matter of you got to actually go give up real assets to go get Chris Paul, no, I think I'm all right. I'm not trying to give up the Mo Bamba, the Malik Beasley. That's not that big of a deal because I don't even know what those two guys, if they're even part of the future for the Lakers. But it's giving up assets and having him take up $30 million of cap room that doesn't really make any interest to me or make sense to me. As part of the conversation, we say, well, what if the Clippers, what if the Washington Wizards wanted Terrence Mann and blah, blah, blah? Would you give him up for Chris Paul? I'm like, if you're the Clippers, you're crazy to give up Terrence Mann, that young of a player, and a player like Chris Paul that's gone through, so many injuries, specifically in the postseason. We know how unavailable Chris Paul has been. Not 1 year, not 2 years. I think 6 of the last 8 years, there's been times that he's been out of the playoffs. So this shows that it's obviously it's a very, very risky maneuver. So let me make things pretty simple here. I do want to point out there was an article earlier today. So Brad Turner of the LA Times, somebody I used all the time during the pregame show. I bring him on Lakers Talk. He's a fantastic reporter for the LA Times. The Lakers for sure would have interest in acquiring Chris Paul, but only for the veteran minimum. If you were to take from the Lakers, if he were to take that from the Lakers, it would be a good deal for the Lakers and allow them to retain Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, possibly without hurting their salary cap too much. I think this is the bottom line, Laker fans, how I feel about the CP3 situation. And it's fluid. This is, he was a Phoenix Sun, 48 hours ago. Now he's part of the Washington Wizards. And now it's a matter of, can they find a third party to make a deal for Chris Paul? And if not, then they'll probably figure out some buyout. And then that's where the Lakers could try to come in for the veterans minimum contract. I'm going to continue to go back to this. If you can get him and you're not giving up anything, cool. Bring CP3 on this Lakers team. If you got to give up some real assets and he's going to take $30+ million of your salary cap, that doesn't sound like a good idea to me. So that's how I feel on the CP3 situation. And I know that is a moving target. So we'll see what happens there. I want to point out one other tweet here. Yossi Goslin, Chris Paul's $30.8 million salary, now looking likely to get fully guaranteed. His guarantee needs to be raised to $27 million to facilitate the current trade. So there's a lot of moving parts, and that's the best way that I could put it when it comes to Chris Paul. He's trying to get his money, and he's also trying to play for a team that he thinks can compete for an NBA championship. That's all sounds great and dandy. Why don't you do a buyout with the Washington Wizards? And if you want to come from the play for the Lakers, or really any team at that point, it doesn't have to just be the Lakers. If he decided, no, I'd be a better fit with the Clippers, or it doesn't even matter. But for me, it seems kind of crazy that the guy would take up $30 million of your contract and you'd have to trade assets for him. I don't want Chris Paul under those conditions. I want Chris Paul under the conditions of you didn't have to give up anything to get him other than that minimum. Okay, so Laker fans, if you have thoughts on that specifically, feel free to put them on the comments, what you think of that situation in regards to Chris Paul. Okay, I'm going to move on here to another topic. Draymond Green. I saw this. This actually, a little bit more information has come out on the Draymond Green stuff since this morning. But the news this morning was this. Draymond Green declining $27.5 million player option and has decided to opt out. Now, some people may look at this. I'll look at this from a Laker fan perspective. I will tell you this. Instantly, I'm rooting for a team to come out of nowhere and grab Draymond Green. I'm looking for a team that has a ton of cap space that says, you know what, we want Draymond Green. I heard somebody say a little bit earlier, it was actually Ramona on NBA Today, said something along the lines, I think she said, maybe a team like the Detroit Pistons. He's from Michigan. And maybe there's a team like that has a ton of cap space that was able to bring him in. I'm just using that as an example. Maybe a team like the Houston Rockets who have a ton of cap space. That would be ideal. Let me tell you why that'd be ideal. It'd be ideal because I really, really believe Draymond Green is the glue to that Warriors team. And if you lost Draymond, you can't just go out and replace him and say, oh, well, we'll just grab this guy and we'll be, fine and dandy. No, I think that machine works because Steph and Clay are who they are. Obviously Andrew Wiggins has done a good job. Jordan Poole has found a role on that team, not necessarily during the playoffs. But I think that team, they are who they are because Draymond Green does everything. Doesn't need the ball, sets great screens, and has been a part of a franchise that's won 4 NBA championships. You don't have to like Draymond Green, but you can't tell me you don't respect what he does for the Golden State Warriors. I'd love to see him leave the Warriors under the conditions that I'm talking about because I think that would really take the Golden State Warriors, in my opinion, that would kind of take them off the board as a true threat in the Western Conference. And whether you think their window was closed or not, I think that they can make some tweaks, maybe look to trade some of their young players, get a couple more vets, and they could be right back in the thick of things in the Western Conference. But I don't think they could do that without Draymond Green. That's what I hope happens. I'll tell you what I think will happen. I think they'll come to an agreement with the Golden State Warriors that he opts out of that final year, knowing that he's probably going to get a 3-year deal. I'm sure he wants a 4-year deal. This is going to be his last big contract. So I'm sure he's trying to get paid. He's being strategic. He's part of Clutch Sports with Rich Paul, and they're going to go try to get him paid. If he's 27 a year, 27 and a half a year for the final year of his contract, maybe he signed something 3 years north of 60, and now he's got a couple years added onto that and a handful more of cash that he could bring to the table for his final big contract. That's what I think is going to happen. I think he's going to stay with the Golden State Warriors personally. Obviously, defensive player of the year, NBA champion, does a little bit of everything. You don't have to like Draymond, but you got to respect him, and I respect the hell out of him. I think he's a key piece and a key component for the Golden State Warriors. So as a Laker fan, I'd like to see him go. As somebody that tries to put himself in Draymond's shoes or the Warriors' shoes, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to eventually re-sign with the Golden State Warriors. If you got some thoughts on that specific topic, you could feel free to put it on the comments, but that's how I feel about that. Last topic that I want to get into here real quick. Just a quick reminder, I do got Lakers talk later tonight. I do that show on ESPN LA 710. You can listen on the ESPN LA app, so feel free to be a part of that show if you'd like to. That one's just going to be on radio. There won't be any social components to it or anything like that. Last thing I want to get into, the Bradley Beal thing that went down yesterday. I did a video on it, and I gave my thoughts that, it's going to force a lot of teams out here in the Western Conference to decide, all right, we got to go get more talent. I want to be clear about this. I know the Suns don't have depth. I know the Suns just are very, very top heavy, but those are 4 really good players. Do they have to be healthy? Of course. Every team's got to be healthy. But Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, there's a lot of good talent on one team. Now, maybe it's Torrey Craig and they're going to have to figure out how to fill up the rest of it. I think Campaign is still on the roster. They're going to need more depth. I threw this question out there, and we were having the conversation earlier. Are the Phoenix Suns now the team to beat in the West? There are so many different answers on this conversation. To me, I will tell you this. There is still a lot to prove from Phoenix. We have no idea how it's going to work. There's only one basketball. Even though I think Beal is underrated person. Well, underrated is not the right way to put it, because when you're getting paid $250 and change or whatever he's getting, you're clearly not underrated. They're paying you to be a top tier talent. But they got to figure out how to play defense. They got to figure out how to have depth, and they got to figure out how to play together, all that stuff. I don't argue that, but I don't think you can argue the talent. And a lot of times teams in the NBA can get pretty damn far just with talent. That doesn't mean that it's all going to click. That doesn't mean all the pieces are going to fit, but it's clear that talent is key. Talent is critical. That's what eventually a lot of the times that's where you get the most success in the NBA. So with that being said, no question about it to me that Denver will be the team to beat in the Western Conference. No question to me they have not just the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, a badass all-star in Jamal Murray, and then real role players that understand how to win. Plus, they're coming off a championship, so their confidence is going to be through the roof. But I do think that the Phoenix Suns, they'll be a team to reckon with. It's not a perfect roster. Let's see what they do the rest of the way. But I just found it very interesting that people were either saying this team is going to be awful and they're going to really struggle and nothing is going to change, and other teams or other people saying, yeah, this is the team to beat in the West. A little bit all over the place, which is always surprising when you have, one topic that can cast people in so many different opinions based off of it. Okay, so those are the top NBA stories there. I just, one other thing that I'm going to point out here that I actually forgot to mention. I want to go back to Draymond real quick here for a quick second. Mike Dunleavy, who is now the new president of basketball operations, now that they obviously changed positions or whatever. Mike Dunleavy Jr. is now the new president there, taking over for Bob Myers. He did have a quote earlier saying, "We really want Draymond back." What he means in terms of the organization, this team winning at the highest level, I feel like we have to have him. I think they're going to do everything to keep him. So, Laker fans, NBA fans, I appreciate you guys taking some time to watch this episode. Give me your thoughts on anything that you think was of interest here. Please subscribe to the channel. And thank you for being a part of the show. Lakers talk coming up tonight. Thanks, Laker fans. Thanks, NBA fans.